This is Examples in Music for Module 10. The objectives in our next few modules have to do with the study of counterpoint. The idea behind all of our examples in music is to show the content in real music pieces. For these next few modules, we will have to keep in mind that counterpoint exercises are just that. They're exercises. They have a cantus firmus and a counterpoint line. They typically have a finite duration, and they are a test for the user to experiment with the different elements involved in counterpoint. While Module 10 and 11 focus on first species counterpoint, this example on the screen now will use many different species of counterpoint at the same time. I'll be pointing out some of the elements discussed in Module 10 in this work. This is the two-part invention number 4 in D minor by J.S. Bach. Objective 10.1 says label intervals as dissonant, imperfect consonances, or perfect consonances. Remember that an interval is the distance between two notes. We can have harmonic intervals when we're comparing two notes that are being played at the same time, and melodic intervals, which is one note after another. The first two measures, we have a series of melodic intervals in the top line. The very first measure, we have a series of seconds. Some of those are major seconds, some of those are minor seconds. But every second is considered a dissonant interval. The leap from B flat to D flat is a sixth, and that's considered a consonant interval. From the learning resources, you will find that all seconds and sevenths are considered dissonances. All octaves and fifths are considered perfect consonances. All thirds and sixths are considered imperfect consonances. And the fourth is a special interval of which its harmonic form is considered a dissonance, but its melodic form is considered a perfect consonance. In later objectives, you'll learn that the first species of counterpoint should involve no dissonances other than melodic seconds. So let's label some of the harmonies that we see here. We have this D sounding with this F, so that's a third, which is a imperfect consonance. Over here we have this C going against this D, which would be considered a second and is a dissonance, something not allowed in first species counterpoint exercises. We'll listen to a bit more. Objective 10.2 says to define counterpoint, the cantus firmus, the counterpoint line, and other terms, such as conjunct, disjunct, contrary, similar, parallel, and oblique. Your learning resources will give you several definitions and examples of those. Here we don't have strict species counterpoint exercises happening, but this invention would be a good example of counterpoint. Basically saying that we have two independent melodic lines that are performed at the same time. They complement each other harmonically, but they still maintain their independence as separate lines of music. Since this is not an actual counterpoint exercise, we won't label one the cantus firmus and one the counterpoint. But we do have examples of some of the terms here. Conjunct, which is stepwise motion. This line right here would be considered a conjunct, and this would be mostly conjunct here. Disjunct means mostly leaps or skips, so this area right here would be disjunct. And in these two measures, we have a conjunct line going against a disjunct line. We see examples of the different types of motion here. Here, we have an example of contrary motion, where this line is going down while this line is going up. Again, right here, we have these three notes going up while these three notes are going down in contrary motion. An example of similar motion is when lines are going in the same direction but not by the same interval size. So since this is going up and this is going up, the lines are moving in similar motion there. On the screen at the moment, I don't see an example of parallel motion. Good contrapuntal writing has a lot more contrary motion than parallel. But we do have oblique motion here. That is when one line moves while the other line stays the same on the same pitch. Let me slow down the tempo so you can hear the line slower and notice the contrary, similar, and oblique motion happening. Let's move on. Objective 10.3 says identify the main characteristic of first species counterpoint. In the learning resources, you'll see that first species counterpoint talks about one-to-one counterpoint, or what's called note-to-note counterpoint. For every one note in the top line, we have one note in the bottom line. And we see that for much of this invention, that's not really the case. However, there are a few spots where we do have one-to-one counterpoint. An example would be the third to last measure, where both lines move in 16th notes at the same time. Traditional counterpoint exercises show one-to-one counterpoint usually as whole notes. We see lots of examples of step, skip, and leap. These notes are moving by step, these notes are moving by skip, and these two notes are moving by leap, as are these two notes. Objective 10.7 says define the concept of parallel fifths and parallel octaves. You can look at the learning resources for that. It's something that we want to avoid, so we probably won't find it here in this example. So to finish up, let's listen to the Bach Invention number 4 as interpreted by a live musician.